Hello, my name is Tony Chan, reporting for TelecomTV. I'm here today speaking to Lee Wei, who is the Business Development Director for Infinera, Asia Pacific. Lee, thanks for joining us today.
You're welcome.
We're going to talk a little bit about SDN and telecom infrastructure. Where do you think SDN fits into the telcos?
We kind of see a general trend with telcos. We're seeing mainly the telco landscape's changing slightly with a lot of the OTT providers moving in from data center, things like Amazon Web Services, people like Google. They tend to be the ones I see that are pushing SDN first. A lot of the telcos I chat to based throughout the region, depends on where they come from and where they're going. I'll see different adoption rates. People like PacNet have already got an SDN service up and running. So the smaller innovative telcos tend to be playing around with new services and looking at rolling those out on a small scale. Okay. But I think SDN will probably touch all of them. I just think people are working out what and when.
So a lot of people talk about SDN and they talk about OpenFlow. But obviously, OpenFlow doesn't really touch the optical layer where Infinera is active in or provides. How are you solving this problem?
That's a really good question. So when we initially looked at OpenFlow, a lot of our customers like ESNet, who run the Energy Sciences network in the US, they wanted to optimize both the IP layer and the transport layer to optimize their cost savings and build connections all the way through the infrastructure, including layer 0 and layer 1. So that really kicked off for us a bunch of work with them, where we took OpenFlow and adapted it slightly with them to allow it to understand and see and configure parts of the transport network as well. So to that end, we took OpenFlow 1.0. We made a few modifications to that with them, so that we could then request ports from either an OTN port in, 10 gig port in, and then out as well. And then that morphed into us not only just taking OpenFlow, but then pushing additional interfaces to solve other problems. One of those was like alarm information. So they have an open floodlet SDN controller that they built themselves that does layer 3 and layer 0, 1. And what they found was when we did the demo, unless you understand what's happening in the optical layer, say a fiber's being cut, the SDN controller is trying to build a connection over a broken link. So by us being able to export the management alarm information to their SDN controller, they then get that information pretty much in real time. Okay. So that's just an example of it's not just OpenFlow, it's REST, it's JSON, it's all the other pieces. And then the other piece going forward that people are interested in is how we take the link state database, which is the network topology we've learned, and then pass that up to the SDN controller so they can do layer 0 and 1 computation.
So when telcos actually implement this kind of SDN with access to the optical layer, with access to what you're talking about, topology and I guess kind of outages information. Once they get that, like, how do you think their business will be transformed? I mean, are they going to be able to roll out new services, or is it more about just cost cutting?
That's a really good question. So initially, I think people viewed it as a way to optimize costs and not on a reduced price per bit. But a big push that's been innovative has been the new services that they can roll out. So again, people like PacNet, they're kind of excited that they can develop their own applications, such as bandwidth on demand, such as network as a service. And so for them, it's opening up a whole bunch of new services they can roll out very quickly and try and test in the market and then see if they work. And without having to come to a vendor to get us to write lots of command line software or operating system software that literally takes months and years.
When telcos look at SDN, and if one of your customers are a telco, like, do they see challenges within, how to actually put in this technology and actually take advantage of it?
I think a lot of people are working out what it means to them. where it fits in. And I think one of the biggest challenges for those is how it fits in with their OSS, BSS architectures. So I'm not convinced that any one person has all the answers. And I think a lot of the vendors are playing a part in that in terms of, you know, do we build an SDN controller and then allow it to control our piece, and in which case how do we allow it to control others? So I think there's a lot, we're at the very early stages at the moment for that. What's interesting as a trend I'm seeing is a couple of the early adopter service providers have flirted and used vendor SDN controllers, and I think they're now looking at Open Daylight and Floodlight so they can do their own open source development and then keep it completely open from their side rather than being tied to a vendor. So that's been one change I've started seeing. That's been relatively recent in the past I'd say 6 months to 12 months. And again, an example of that would be ESNet. They kind of started out from that, you know, we'll build off-the-shelf standard Linux software, Floodlight, we'll develop our own and manage the IP layer and transport layer as both. And we just fit in with that and built that API to tie in. Now, what's interesting as well is there's enhancements to OpenFlow, like 1.3 is probably a better fit. That kind of encompasses more of the optical stuff as well.
Thank you very much, Lee, for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you very much for the invite and the opportunity. Much appreciated.